Hello story lovers, welcome to Folks and Tales, your one-stop channel for stories that inspire, lessons that last. Temidayo, a native of the Orile village, in a bid to prove her bravery, did something so foolish that a curse was placed on her daughter. When Temidayo was a teenager of 15, she and a couple of her friends dared each other to enter the sacred grounds of the village. This place was a forbidden entry to all women. So when Lola made the suggestion, everyone was scared as they were all girls. But Temi, who liked to act brave, accepted the challenge. "I can go in there and pick a sacred artifact," Temi said boldly. Temi, do you know what you're saying?" Nikki asked with round eyes and a shocked expression on her face. "Of course, I know what I'm talking about," she said as she walked a bit closer to the boundary of the sacred land. "I am brave. There is nothing to fear," she said. "However, if I do this, you all will have to do everything I tell you for a month," Temi said as a sly grin played across her lips. Though the girls didn't believe that Temi would take such a risk, they agreed to her conditions. Temi looked at all of them with pride on her face. She took bold steps and walked past the boundary into the sacred grounds. As she walked, she heard the surprised gasps of her friends behind her. She smiled triumphantly as she walked deeper. Halfway through, she felt a cold wind blow by, sending shivers all over her body. She stopped, looked around, and upon finding nothing, she continued walking deeper. Soon, she came to a small hut. It was made of mud and painted red. Temi looked around the surroundings before she entered inside. Once inside the hut, she found it empty except for a staff that was kept by the corner. Temi hurriedly grabbed the staff and walked out of the hut. The consequences of this action were not met in Temi's lifetime. However, her daughter, Lola, bore the full brunt of the curse. Lola was known as the most beautiful girl in the village. She was a true treasure, as she had royal blood flowing through her veins. Lola, as she was commonly called, was the granddaughter of the present king of Orile village. She was an only child, as her mother, Temidayo, passed on when Lola was still very young. Lola grew up in love as her father doted on her and her grandfather considered as his treasure. Lola was not an unruly girl, but she got away with everything she did, as both her grandfather and her father always stepped in for her. Lola had always been a love fanatic, as she always fantasized about the man she would marry. Although she was already at a marriageable age, nobody had questioned her about finding a suitor. Well, all of these changed when Dayo came into her life. Dayo was considered one of the most eligible bachelors in the neighboring village. He was known as the best hunter amongst his age group, good enough to challenge seasoned hunters who had been at it for decades. At 20 years of age, Dayo had surpassed what the best hunter accomplished at that age. One day, Dayo and Lola met at the marketplace when both villages were having intertrade gatherings, and it was love at first sight for both of them as they felt drawn to each other. "I think I've seen who I'll spend the rest of my life with," Lola said in an exciting manner as her maid, Bimpe, fanned her with a raft fan. "Little princess, are you sure about this?" Your marriage is a big deal to His Royal Majesty, and he would want you to marry into royalty," Bimpe said in a concerned tone. Lola didn't care for Bimpe's worries, as she was confident that her wishes would be granted. For the next couple of weeks, both Dayo and Lola would secretly seek each other out. And the more time they spent together, the more convinced they were about the love they shared. One day, while they sat under a tree as they had a picnic, Dayo asked, "Lola, what do you think your father would say if I asked your hand in marriage?" "I don't know," Lola answered honestly. "Well, it doesn't matter what he says and does, because I will never give up on you. Lola, I love you with all my heart. No matter what, I will be there," Dayo said as he hugged Lola. Lola felt all sweet inside of her. She was very happy to find a man like Dayo. That day when she went back home, she told her father, Prince Lanwe, about Dayo. But her father rejected her with being with the commoner, and this led to a huge argument between both of them. "Lola, no matter how decorated the hunter is, he's still a commoner and cannot be worthy of you," her father said furiously as he wagged his finger at her. "Father, you married my mother even as she was not royalty. You married her against the wishes of your grandfather. You even overlooked the fact that she violated the sacred ground even when she was a teenager, an act that you should have disqualified her from even being royal. But you married her. What is the difference with my marriage to Dayo?" Lola asked as she sobbed. Her father's face blackened upon hearing her words. "I made your mother royalty. That is the difference," he shouted. "This will be the last time I will ever hear this name, Dayo, again. You have been given privileges, and this is how you misuse it? Sneaking out to see a man? Lola, you disappoint me. Starting from today, you will not leave this house unless I permit it," her father declared as he furiously stormed out, leaving no room for Lola to object. Lola slumped on the floor as she wept bitterly. She thought her father would understand the love she and Dayo shared, but reality proved her wrong. She didn't bother asking her grandfather, as she knew he would stand with her father on this one. So she sent Bimpe to secretly deliver a letter to Dayo, telling him of the situation. She asked him to give her time to convince her father and grandfather. On receiving the letter from Lola, Dayo felt heartbroken. He was a man of few words. When he spoke, he always kept his word. The words of love he professed for Lola came from deep within him. He knew that he wanted Lola as his wife, no woman but Lola. So he visited Orile village to properly introduce himself to her family and state his intentions. He believed that doing this would smooth things out a bit and create an opportunity for both him and Lola. But to his disappointment, he was not given an audience when the guards chased him away. Dayo's heart felt heavy. He didn't know what else to do. He tried to gain audience a couple more times, but the result was the same. This, however, did not dissuade him. He and Lola kept in touch through their secret messages, and every once a week, he attempted to seek audience with the king, but was rejected. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, But the love the two shared only grew stronger. Dayo did not relent on his visits to the Orile palace, but the results were always the same. He prayed for an opportunity to just sneak a glance at Lola, but that never happened. On the day of Lola's 20th birthday, tragedy struck. Lola, who went to bed very healthy with anticipation for a celebration the next day, slept but did not awake the next day. Bimpe, who slept on the floor beside Lola, tried waking her up but to no avail. She raised an alarm, and it was confirmed that Lola was alive but unable to wake up. The healers were called, but every attempt to wake Lola up failed. Everybody knew that Lola could not sleep forever. If she failed to wake up within a couple of days, she will eventually die. Both the king and his son were distressed. They sought the help of the village priest, who upon arrival did some incantations and confirmed the reason for Lola's state. "A curse is upon her," he said. His words caused a deep line of worry to appear on her father's face. "A curse?" he asked in a worried and fearful tone. "What is the curse about, and how did it come to be?" the king asked, equally worried. "This curse did not come about through the actions of the girl, but because of her mother. The gods do not sleep. She violated the sacred grounds in her youth. While she was set free, her daughter had to pay for it." When the king heard this, he glared at his son. Prince Larry looked at his father and said, "Lola came as a result of both Temi and me. Father, let us focus on how to get Lola out and not apportion blame." The king nodded his head and turned towards the priest as a signal for him to continue speaking. "The child is not just asleep as you think. Rather, her spirit has been caged in a realm that is not visible to the naked eye. If she is not released before the next full moon, she will sleep forever," the priest said emotionlessly. These words sent a chill across all those present. "What do I do? How do I get her out of this?" Prince Lanry asked. "You cannot do anything to save the child. No one of the same blood can save her. Only those who are of pure heart and have not defiled themselves can venture into the spirit world to free her spirit. But take heed, the journey will be full of danger. The temptations will be too great for one who has no soul connection with her. Even this may prove worthless, as they may not make it alive." The priest said those words as he made his way out of the palace. "Choose a candidate and send him to me in 2 days. Do not be late, as the life of the child hangs on the line. The earlier we start, the higher the chances of saving her." The priest's words echoed in the hall. The air in the hall felt heavy, as everyone knew exactly how pathetic the situation was. Who will save her? This was the question on everyone's mind. While they were in deep thought, Bimpe, Lola's maid, cleared her throat. Your Highness, may I make a suggestion?" she asked as she raised her right hand high. Everyone knew that Bimpe was Lola's maid, so they were not surprised that she would volunteer to save her. "Girl, this is not a journey you can embark on," Prince Lanre said. His tone was firm. Bimpe shook her head vigorously as she stuttered her words in anxiety. No, not me, but Dayo." "Dayo? You dare mention that name in my presence?" Prince Lanre barked furiously at Bimpe, which made her fall to her knees as she pleaded in a scared tone. Her eyes were already filled with tears. "This Dayo you speak of, is he the unrelenting young man who claims he is in love with Lola and wants her hand in marriage?" the king asked Bimpe, a question to which Bimpe responded positively. "Summon him to the palace. If he loves Lola so much, he should be able to prove it. If he can bring her back, he will have the child's hand in marriage." Prince Lanre looked at his father. When he heard those words, he understood that this was the best possible way to bring his only child back from the brink of death, and he did not refute his father's decision. When Dayo, who had been longing to see the love of his life, heard about the state that she was in, he did not hesitate to accept the king's decision. "How can I let her die when there is still hope?" he thought to himself. Dayo was sent to the high priest to prepare for the journey to the spirit realm. He knew the journey wouldn't be one that came with a lot of trials, but he didn't know what to expect. He could only wait the guidance of the high priest. When he got to the shrine where the high priest resided, he was made to bathe in some herbal liquid and chew some herbs, after which an incense was lit. As he laid down on a mat, a herbal mixture was applied to his body, and the priest gave him some advice. "You will face 7 deadly trials that will test the purity of your heart. There will also be a dividing path. I will advise you to follow the soul tie you have with the girl. This will be your saving light. Also, do not trust whatever you see or hear. Look within you to find the path. The spirits are not your friends. If you fall, you will never wake up." Dayo's heart thundered in his ears as he listened to the high priest. He shut his eyes tight as he stilled his mind. "I must bring her back," he said to himself over and over again. Dayo felt as if the whole world was spinning. The feeling was unsettling as he wanted it to stop, but he couldn't feel his arms. He knew he existed, but he couldn't make out any part of his body. He felt like air. Just as he began to panic, the spinning stopped. Dayo opened his eyes, but all he saw was fog. He struggled hard to remember his purpose. "Who am I?" he asked himself. He was confused and didn't understand what had just happened to him. Where is this? Why am I here? He took a step forward, and with this motion, he felt a large bang go off in his mind, and memories returned to him, and he knew his mission in this realm. After he felt better, Dayo went back on his journey. The last words of the high priest echoed in his mind over and over again. He knew about the trails, but he did not know what each trail entailed. The further Dayo walked, the more different he felt. He got to a point where he started thinking about all his accomplishments as a hunter. He felt proud, as no man in his age group and beyond had achieved what he had. His life dream had always been about killing a lion. He knew that he would make his name travel far and wide. As he thought about this, he came across a stream. The water was controlled by some powers. Dayo looked at his reflection. He saw himself wearing the fur of a lion. The proud thoughts in his mind intensified. I am a king, he thought. I am above and beneath none. Yes, you are a king. A very beautiful woman emerged from the stream, holding a crown made from the bones of a lion, and placed it on his head. You are the strongest of them all, the bravest hunter, the spirit said. Dayo stared at his reflection in the water. Deep down, he felt something was not right. He touched the robe he wore and the crown on his head, but he felt a bit empty inside of him. This is not me, he thought to himself. That is not why I'm here. I can never place myself above every other person. But you are greater than all of them. You are king, the spirit said. Shut up and get out of my head. Dayo screamed. His voice echoed into the distance. The moment he gained clarity, the spirit shrieked and puffed into smoke. Dayo looked around, and the stream was no more. He continued on his journey as he reflected on what had just happened. He had lost himself in those proud thoughts. If his determination to save Lola was not so strong, he would have easily let those thoughts consume him. Dayo became extremely cautious as he forged ahead. As soon as he saw a glittering light in the distance, when he reached the light, he saw another stream. However, this one was different from the first. The stream was filled with treasures, gold, silver, and all kinds of precious stones. As Dayo stared at the stream, his heart stirred as greedy thoughts surfaced inside of him. Why not forget her? All these will become yours. A voice whispered to him. All of this will be mine? Dayo asked in a dazed tone. Yes, you will never have to lift a finger to walk in your life. Just say yes, and all these will belong to you. The voice urged. All of the jewels reflected in Dayo's eyes, and as he stared, a figure overshadowed them all. It was the image of Lola. He remembered she was worth more than these jewels put together. Dayo simply shut his eyes tightly, his mind made up not to entertain those greedy thoughts. When he opened his eyes, the stream was gone, and he continued his journey. The next stream he came across filled the desire of men. Women appeared from the stream as they danced around Dayo, trying to seduce him. Each woman he saw was enough to make a man lose himself 10 times over. Lustful desires surged deep in Dayo, but he persisted. He focused, for his only goal was Lola. Pride, greed, and lust are 3 of the 7 deadly sins, and the high priest mentioned that he would face 7 deadly trials. He knew that his next trial would be envy. So, when he entered the stream, the feeling of envy welled up inside of him. He entered a meditative state to look deep inside of him. He was grateful for all he had and what he will have. He had no reason to envy other men. He was here to free his greatest treasure from the clutches of death. And once he succeeded, he would be the biggest winner. Dio successfully broke free from the trial of envy and continued moving forward. When he got to the stream of gluttony, Dio was astonished. On his way, he pondered the kind of effect this stream would have on him and never thought it would be serious. But upon getting to this point, he realized that he had underestimated how powerful gluttony was. The spirits here were holding a feast and invited Dio to eat. There was every delicacy known to Dio and those not known to him. He felt drawn to the tables packed with food and drinks. Dio had the urge to refuse, but he came to realize that eating was a part of the trial. He had to eat, but only needed enough to refuel himself before continuing his journey. This is easy, Dio. Though as he took a bite of the steak, Dio's eyes rounded in disbelief as different flavors burst into his mouth. He had never in his life tasted anything so mouth-watering. The urge to eat more consumed his thoughts. As he started grabbing any type of food his hands could reach and began stuffing them into his mouth. He felt like he could not get enough, and as he continued, he heard a scream in his head. "Stop it!" Dio paused and looked around. The spirits were still eating non-stop. He looked at the food in his hands and felt ashamed of his actions. He washed his hands and stood up, thanking the spirits for feeding him. "Sit down and have some more," a spirit urged him, but Dio simply refused and said, "I have had enough." These 4 words triggered the end of the 5th trial. The 6th trial, wrath, sounded like a hard one for Dio to overcome. The waters of the stream were boiling red. There seemed to be the rat packed in each bubble. The more he looked, the more enraged he became. Scenes from when his violent father beat up his mother played before his eyes. Those scenes filled him up with so much rage that he needed to vent. Suddenly, he saw a figure that looked like his father, and Dio charged at this figure. When he was an arm's length away, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. "This is not me," he thought to himself. "I am not my father, and I will never hurt my Lola. Love is what brought me here, and love will lead me out." Upon coming to this realization, he gained his senses and continued the journey. The last of the 7 trials took a huge toll on Dio, the trial of sloth. The waters of the stream were dull, almost like it could release all manner of light. Dio felt his body grow heavy. He had no willpower to continue. Why do I need to suffer all these things just for one person? Dio asked himself. I should take a nap, he said to himself. The temptation to give up was so great that he found himself slipping into sleep. He yawned and stretched his arms, but before he could give in, he whispered a name, Lola. Upon hearing his voice, Dio felt a stream of strength fill him up. He regained his clarity and the stream vanished. At this juncture, Dio was extremely grateful for the connection he had with Lola. He would have died 1,000 times over, if not for the love they shared. These thoughts fueled his desire to continue. Dio kept walking, and soon he came to a dividing path, one black and the other white. Listen to your heart. Follow the connection you share with the girl. Dio clearly remembered what the high priest said. Dio stood at the intersection with his eyes, shut and sunk deep into his thoughts. He played the memories he shared with Lola and all the messages they sent to each other. With his eyes closed, he started walking on the dark path. He could feel a connection coming from this direction. The further he walked, the stronger the connection became. Dayo was eager, and he began running. He did not know how long he ran for, but he knew it was long, and he began to pant because he was tired. But he persevered and reached his destination. At the end of the road, he saw Lola's spirit, lying in a peaceful sleep. He slowly walked towards her, fearful that he might trigger a trap. However, nothing happened. He took bold steps, and when he reached her, he carefully carried her. The moment he lifted her, a bright tunnel appeared in front of him, and a voice echoed, "A brave young man indeed, pure of heart and full of love. The curse has been lifted, but this serves as a warning to all those who plan to defy me. The next will not be spared." Once the echo died down, Dayo felt the force push him into the light, and he woke up. When he looked around him, he realized he was back in his body. He hurriedly stood up, but fell back down. "Easy there," he heard the high priest say. "You have been gone for over a month. Your body needs to heal. Your wife is resting. You will be together soon." Dayo wore a big smile when he heard this. "My wife?" he murmured as he drifted off into a deep sleep. The story of Dayo and Lola illustrates that love, when pure and selfless, has the power to heal wounds, break curses, and transcend all barriers. How about you guys? What lessons did you learn from this story? Please drop it in the comment section. I would love to read about them. Thanks for watching, story lovers. Again, this is Folks and Tales. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a big thumbs up, comment, and share this video to other story lovers. Also, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified whenever we upload a video. We will be uploading intriguing and captivating stories multiple times per week. You don't want to miss them. Until my next one, peace and love.